This is my research project by Kimani. Intro to project. The topic is on concussions in football, and my central question is, how does concussions affect the way that football is played? Is there change or no? Evidence 1. It says, there is evidence to suggest if the NFL changes any rules or not to protect their players. The evidence is found in an article named Head to Head, the National Football League and Brain Injury by the NYU. One point in the article brings up that although severe head trauma and brain injury have gotten much attention in the media, efforts to minimize these injuries have lagged. The NFL has only recently begun taking steps to protect its players in response to the torrent of criticism. NYU 3. This quote means that though it was well known that many players were suffering concussions, the NFL did little to change the amount of head injuries in the league. This statement demonstrates the author's intention to stop the high amount of players injured with concussions because head trauma is a horrible injury that can affect the future of someone's life greatly in a negative way. And this shows us that there was little effort to stop increasing numbers of concussions. Evidence 2 says when the NFL created the targeting rule, Tim Clark says the NFL has witnessed significant changes in the incidence of concussions over the last 5 seasons from 2017 to 2018 through 2021 to 2022. This period marked the introduction of the NFL's targeting rule in 2018, aimed to reduce concussions by penalizing hits with are directed at the head. Clark 1. The author is trying to say that later, when the NFL took notice that concussions kept reoccurring in the league, they made the targeting rules so players were not allowed to initiate forcible contact with the opponent, which potentially would decrease the number of head injuries in the NFL. This action of the NFL helps the author intent to show that the National Football League cares about the safety of their players and they prioritize their players' health over the entertainment they provide. And the author gives us perspective that the NFL is making change to the way the game is played because of concussions. Evidence 3 says, when the NFL enforced new rules, Doug Most says since then, dozens of new rules, new equipment, and stiffer penalties have been in place, all with the intention of trying to reduce the numbers of concussions players sustain. The league expanded the illegal use of the helmet, making it a penalty if a player butts, rams, or spears an opponent with their head, most 8 and 9. In other words, the author is trying to explain that the NFL has made many new changes to try to decrease the number of concussions that are caused from playing the game of football. They want players to not make contact with opponents while leading with their head. This occasion matters because it highlights the fact that, yes, the NFL is making changes to the way the game is played to protect their players, but to protect them from head injuries because those could be a career or even life-ending threat. Evidence 4 says the NFL changed the game for safer gameplay. Judy Batista explains this when she says the NFL has prioritized adjusting kickoff rules to make the play more exciting but safer as it heads into the offseason with some promising injury data. League officials said Wednesday the number of concussions remained largely stable from last season, 219, including those who suffered in preseason and regular season games and practices. That is up from 213 in 2022, but still well below the high of 281 a few years ago. Batista 1 and 3. In other words, the author is trying to display the fact that the NFL has changed rules of kickoff because they recorded data and found that most of the concussions in the NFL appear during kickoff, and this change caused a slight decrease in concussions in the league, but the number was still high. This matters because Bautista explains that the NFL is making changes to the way the game is played so they can better protect the careers and lives of their players. They make a change in football so that concussion numbers can decrease more and more every season. Evidence 5 says, when the NFL realized that concussions became more common in the league, Edward Sutherland wrote, in today's NFL, they are taken far more seriously. Players who are hit hard or appear to have any head injury are taken off the field and evaluated immediately for concussion. If team staffers believe the player is seriously injured or at risk of concussion, they will be pulled from the game. Sutherland 2. The author is trying to display that the NFL now takes concussions very seriously. They do not let a player return to the field if they have any symptoms of concussion or head injury, and they had to go through many procedures and steps before the player can start attending practices. More importantly, start attempting to play in games. This statement matters because it shows us that there was change in the NFL once they saw concussions kept occurring, so they acted on these injuries and enforced more serious procedures to see if a player has a concussion and how and what they need to do to be able to play football again. But in some cases, concussions are career-ending injuries. Synthesis and conclusion. My research leads me to believe that the game of football has and are making changes to protect their players from head injuries. It is obvious that the NFL is taking notice of the many concussions in the league, and we can see this because they have made the targeting rule and made changes to the kickoff because they saw a lot of head injuries were the result of hard hits with the helmet leading. And on kickoff, in the end, the NFL is doing a lot to try and prevent all players from the risk of receiving concussions. Reflection. I searched different sites to see if they were credible or reliable, and I came upon these 5, but many other websites I found agreed that yes, the NFL does make changes to help their players, and so I was looking for statistics and rule change that they made. Works cited: Evidence 1, head-to-head, the National Football League and brain injury, NYU website, NYU Langone Health, and there's the URL. Evidence number 2, has the NFL's targeting rule helped reduce concussions? Tim Clark website, healthy roster, URL's right there. Evidence number 3, research on CTE and concussions changed the NFL. Experts say that's not enough. Doug Most website, Boston University, URL's right there. Evidence 4, NFL's prioritization of player safety leads to promising injury data for 2023 season. Judy Bautista website, NFL URL, it's right there. Evidence number 5, how does the NFL's concussions protocol work? Explaining the 5 steps process for return to play. Edward Sutherland website, The Sporting News, URL's right there.